The mask is finally off. The mask has come off. A lot of you guys were shocked to see how people responded to Charlie Kirk's death. He was shot in the neck, killed in front of his wife and his children, and people celebrated over the internet. A lot of you guys were surprised to learn that so-called friends and neighbors, people you worked with, were the type of people who would cheer this guy's death. Well, at least now you know. At least you know what you're dealing with. You know exactly what you're dealing with. A lot of you guys called up employers and got people fired. That's not something I'm into, but hey, at least you know where people stand. And I've seen this in people for a long time, but a lot of you guys are surprised that, hey, people, this is what's in their heart. A lot of you guys are surprised by that. Anyway, speaking of the whole Kirk situation, the shooter, we're now learning that he was living with a trans individual, a male to female person making the transition from male to female. And it looks like the trans issue was a big issue with this shooter. May have been a motivating factor because the authorities are reporting that after interviews, this may have been a big factor. So the shooter entered a romantic relationship with a trans individual, and now it looks like, the whole story doesn't make a lot of sense. The whole narrative seems kind of bizarre to me. First, remember when they were talking about how the authorities were talking about how they found a rifle in the woods, but then they also showed a video of this suspect jumping off of a roof without the rifle. So I'm thinking, did he throw the rifle off the roof first? Or what's going on? Doesn't quite make a lot of sense. I don't trust the government and their story, the FBI and their story. The government didn't even find this guy. He got turned in by his father, apparently. That was the situation. So they didn't even really find this guy. So that's really interesting. Kash Patel flew in for the photo for the conference or whatever. So it seems like this trans issue keeps popping up. It's a variable that pops up in a lot of these mass shootings, a lot of them. So it's something's going to be very difficult to ignore. Another thing that's difficult to ignore as far as the mask coming off, the media. At one point, the New York Times reported, they sort of painted, it seemed like they were almost painting Charlie Kirk as an anti-Semite. They misquoted him. They took a statement from Charlie where he was talking about somebody else, and they completely misrepresented the guy. They're trying to make it seem like he's an anti-Semite. I think that a lot of people in the media are going to do that because he questioned Israel's policy, Israel's decisions. He was really starting to question Israel's decisions. So I guess that gets you labeled anti-Semite. Anyway, so share your thoughts on this latest development. I want to talk about Russia, the mask being off, Russia. Trump gave Russia an ultimatum, some type of deadline or whatever, and that deadline came and it just passed. It passed already. And Trump just looked pretty pathetic. Okay, the whole Ukraine situation. Now he's talking about he's willing to put additional sanctions on Russia if the rest of NATO agrees. Like, okay, whatever, man. These sanctions don't work. The Russians have an economy where they have access to food, energy. They don't need you. They don't need the West. They don't need the West. Okay, we're not going to be able to punish them with sanctions. They don't need us. In fact, a lot of the West needs Russia. Because now Trump is talking about how, hey, if NATO stops buying Russian oil, then we would have more leverage. Here's the deal. Europe needs Russian energy. They need the gas. They need the oil. They still depend on the oil. So the Europeans put sanctions on the Russians saying, we're not going to buy your oil. Okay, the Russians sold their oil to India. And now the Europeans are buying oil, that Russian oil, from India. They're still depending on the Russian oil, okay? It's ridiculous. No, they can't stop relying on Russian energy. They're not in that position. Trump isn't in the position to pressure Russia. He really isn't. So the mask is coming off. I think a lot of people are seeing what's going on with I think Trump just needs to pull us out of Ukraine. Stop spending all this money on Ukraine. Stop using Ukraine as a proxy war. Pull us out of that mess. That's not in the best interest of the American people. we probably should pull out of NATO too, to be frank. If they're obsessed with going to war with Russia, let them have it. We don't need to be involved in that. But speaking of NATO, Egypt is apparently working on their own version of NATO. They want to have a union in the Middle East, and Egypt's willing to commit 20,000 soldiers to this cause. Good luck with that. Israel's dominating the Middle East, and they have the United States in their pocket, willing to do whatever the hell they say. And that's what I'm seeing at this point. Anyway, back to NATO and that whole situation. Apparently, they're working on exercises, drills in Poland. 40,000 soldiers near the Belarus border. Should be really interesting. So, this is what it looks like when the mask is coming off. The conservatives are seeing what they're really dealing with. Okay? All this talk about, we need to come together. Oh, okay. Hey, do your thing, guys. But people are seeing people for who they really are. Sometimes big events like this do this. And it's unfortunate that a lot of people, their eyes are closed until something like this happens. But, you can learn from the situation. This is a teachable moment for a lot of us. So share your thoughts on that. I just did a video on A Long Walk. Pretty interesting movie. I'm going to watch the anime movie Demon Slayer tomorrow. I'll do a video on that. And I'm going to watch this Canelo Crawford fight. So I'm going to enjoy that. I wish you guys the best. All right, thank you guys for taking the time to listen to me. Thanks for watching. And don't forget, the future belongs to those who prepare for it today. Question of the day. What was your biggest mask off moment? Whether it be politics, whether it be in your career, whether it be in your personal life, whether it be dealing with men or dealing with women. Can you just tell me in the comment section, what was a big moment where you learned a lot about something, about yourself, about the world and how it really works?